Reagan, thank you for that live report, and our team coverage on the impending loss of SNAP benefits now turns to Western Mass News reporter Madison Lisowski.
She also joins us live in studio after speaking with Congressman Richard Neal, dealing with this issue on the state level. Madison.
Yeah, Chris and Amanda, starting Saturday, as we just said, thousands of Western Massachusetts families could lose their food assistance. But Congressman Richard Neal says there's money sitting unused that could prevent that on the federal level. Neal says that the president has contingency money that is set aside for SNAP benefits that could be used during this month-long government shutdown, but is choosing not to use it.
I think what is exhausting here is the argument that the president has the money. All he has to do is agree to spend it. Some states are attempting to intervene. Whether or not that can be done in Massachusetts, I don't know.
Neal says that premium support notices will also be going out for health insurance plans in just a few days, which will affect up to 24 million Americans. Now, to find out how you can help those who may be losing their SNAP benefits starting this Saturday, you can head to our website at westernmassnews.com. For now, reporting live in studio, Madison Lisowski, Western Mass.